All right. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for anyone who's watching. If you catch this and are new and don't know, my name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy. On GitHub and Discord, I usually stream around this time each week, Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Central Time. Most weeks working on stuff related to CircuitPython, sometimes libraries, sometimes projects, sometimes my own stuff that is destined for CircuitPython projects that are just mine, sometimes kind of like more official stuff, just depends on what's going on throughout the week. If you don't know what CircuitPython is, you can learn more about it at the main website right here, circuitpython.org. It's basically a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers. You plug them into your computer, they show up like a thumb drive. You can save a Python code file on there, and then the microcontroller will run that Python code for you. CircuitPython is open source. Anyone's allowed to use it in your own projects. You're allowed to put it inside products if you want and sell them. You're allowed to do, more or less whatever you want to do with the code. Check the license for full details, but it's an open source, very permissive license. Adafruit is a company that makes that possible. They're a hardware and software company based out of New York. They pay the folks who work on CircuitPython, myself and a few other folks who work on the team, as well as folks who work on all sorts of other open source hardware and software things. So huge thanks to them for supporting open source by paying people to work on it. If you want to help support them and by extension CircuitPython and all the other open source work they do, one of the easiest ways that you can help is by purchasing hardware from them on their website, adafruit.com. So today, jumping into what I would like to work on is this text-based game framework, which ultimately will find its way to CircuitPython. Right now, I'm just running it on my PC, but it is using basic input and output, so we're going to very easily be able to hook this up to the CircuitPython terminal. Ultimately, I have visions of making this into kind of a text-based game, but we'll use kind of the ANSI color terminal stuff that I've been working on lately, and we'll maybe lay out some different sections of the screen eventually. Right now we're doing just basic input-output, but eventually we will fancy it up. What is up, Johnny Bergdahl? Nice to see you, my friend. So I started this recently, maybe in last week or somewhere in that time range. And I don't have a whole lot done, but I will give you a super-de-duper quick rundown of what is done. I have in mind the idea to make this game framework, and then I also have in mind an idea of a game that I would like to make with it. So part of my process here is figuring out where the framework ends and where the game that I want to make with it begins. Hopefully striking that balance well enough that other people could use the framework, obviously, to make their own games that don't have to necessarily be that similar to the one that I want to make. But the stuff I have so far, so I'll kind of work from top down, or that's how I think of it at least. Code.py, sort of highest level inside of here. So far, the way this works, and this is super alpha stuff, obviously, so it could be changing over time. You create a game. You're gonna have a map object of some sort. This one's just creating a new map, which is kind of a test map, but obviously eventually I think the idea here will be to load the map from some kind of data file, JSON or CSV or some kind of data file, maybe even tiled if you wanted to be super fancy with it. The game 2D game map framework, you could make a map in there and export it. That might be overkill. But yeah, that's how that will be. Eventually, you'll import it somehow. There on the game, there is a player. I was doing some tests here to set the player's health and mana. I was printing out the player. I was printing out a location in the map. I was taking some input and then processing the input inside of a loop. So that is kind of, some of this stuff is test only, right? Just randomly saving different values here is kind of test stuff. But this core concept of like create the game object, create a map object, or import a map object, and then get a loop where you're taking input from the user. This is a text-based sort of command line type interface. Send that user input once you get it into process input, and then from there, the game takes over. So the next layer down is the game. The game has a player like we saw before. The game has a map. The game has some default commands, which include the help command and right now the player info command. And then the game has a couple other functions like print, process input. That's where we were passing the user input to. Save, which does nothing currently. Available commands, which will kind of compile together all the commands that the player is allowed to use currently, which can change based on like which room they're in, potentially which items they have, whether or not there's a monster that they're fighting or whatever. So currently this takes the default commands and it adds together the commands that it finds that are available from the map. Lookup command. This is basically going to look up, I think, a kind of an ID. Yeah, this is taking user input and it's trying to get back a command object from that. So user's going to type in a string. Obviously, you know, they type it in and press enter. That's a string. This is going to look up that string in the available commands, return the command object, which would then ready to be called wanted to. And in fact, process input does exactly that, I'm sure. Process input, this is where user input comes in. We split it because they could have spaces. There are commands that could take arguments potentially, like use item, right? Use torch or whatever. Let's see one thing here real fast. Okay, split up the user input, look up the command, which the command is going to be the first part before any spaces. So look it up to see if there actually is a command, give an error if not. Otherwise, right now it's just executing the command and passing along any arguments. So that's game. It's pretty darn basic. Player is very, very basic. It's pretty much just holding some variables for us like the health, the max health, the current health, the location, the max mana, the current mana, properties. Just a couple printouts. About it. Map is able to be accessed with square brackets, so that's why back in code we were able to say like map square brackets. And then there's a test map here, which currently just has map data. Looks like I have set this up to be a list of lists. So kind of like I'm imagining this map as a two-dimensional array, essentially. And the idea is you'll be able to go like, move north, move west, that sort of thing. And so test map has only one room, and it's a test room. And so again, eventually we'll have some kind of loader that like takes a data file and creates an instance of a map, some other map that's not test map. I'm very thirsty today. And then we have rooms, which so far rooms hold a couple of things. The look text, like what you would get printed if you were to look around when you're in that room. List of items that might exist, list of enemies, list of commands. Items and enemies exist here, but nowhere else yet. That's maybe one thing we'll do today. There is commands, which are already hooked up. So for instance, I also have kind of a sort of test room, so to speak. I called it the town room, which eventually we'll maybe change that to like, well, I don't even know if that this one maybe shouldn't even exist in the framework. Honestly, this is part way towards the game I want to make and less so the framework. thinking back on it. But yeah, I do have a town room, which I was using to test the way the commands work. So town room extends regular room. It gets its own look text, and it gets its own list of commands, which are available if you're in that room. One of them is the rest command. Well, the only one of them currently is the rest command. Commands actually have a fair amount of stuff going on here. Commands, well, actually, these are just the commands that exist. So the base command object has a list of access names, because I have in mind maybe shortcuts. I don't think there are any right now. But I have in mind maybe shortcuts like, move west, right? You could type out the 2 words move west, but maybe we also do a shortcut of MW. So it's just 2 characters or something like that. So this is a list of sort of commands that lead to the same place. If that makes any sense. Sort of shortcuts for each other. They're not used right now. They're all single things, but I just made a list in anticipation. Every command has a help text that will get printed in a couple of different ways. Every command has an execute function, which the subclasses of command should implement. This one doesn't do anything by default. Help command will list out all the commands that are available, and it will also let you get information on a specific command if you say help space and the command you want. Rest command, so that's another one. This might be long over in my game. I don't know. I suppose it depends if we want to build in the concept of HP and mana into the framework, or let that be part of my game. I feel like that's fairly common. So I do kind of want the framework to be sort of ready to go for an adventure game. You could probably use it for other types of games, but I think I want it to be sort of mostly ready to go for that, so that you don't have to do too much extra work if that is the type of game you want to make. So maybe we'll keep that. I don't know. We'll see. But in this case, it restores HP and mana back to max. Obviously, you could tweak this up for your own game. Player info will print some stuff about the player. Basically all I've gotten done so far. So it does put us in a test map. The test map we know actually does have the town room, which is where we can run the rest command. Run this, we can actually... A couple of things getting printed currently. This one's not very useful, but this is printing here. We should give a 2-string probably to the... Let's do that while we're here, honestly. I'm just generally working on this, trying to get more of it built out. So let's go to rooms, and let's give it a 2-string of... Can I get the class name? And if I can, is that going to be this or this if I put it in here? And also right now there's no items or enemies, so we don't really need to print it. Okay, yeah, there we go. Nice, and it does get the correct class name, which is cool. Okay, so we print that. Let's do commands also while we're here, since now we have that one. I think for the 2-string, let's just say the first access name. I think sounds pretty much fine. That didn't work. Rest command, extends command. Not effectively the same thing we just did with the two strings before. Not call that. Weird. But does it work? I don't really want to duplicate that in every class, but not. Vendor string, did I mess up the name? I guess maybe because it's in a list, it doesn't do that. I mean, it's calling, not calling string. Is it calling the other one? There's like, what is it, repr? Repr instead of string. It's in a list? Thing or not? I mean, that make it call string? Okay. That's fine for now. Okay, so here we could go help, and it will list out all the commands we have. Help command, player command, rest command. That's it right now. Player, we can see our current HP and mana. And again, you know, once we get onto a display with CircuitPython, I think we'll show this stuff somewhere, right? You won't have to always just run a command to see it. The core loop of the game will still be this like entering commands and stuff, but we will sort of build out a bit more of a terminal-based GUI around it. But so we can rest, and then we can player again, and we see that our stuff went back up. So let's work on moving next, I think. And moving, what we'll do is in our test map, let's say, well, two things actually. Let's make a new room. Just call this empty room. I don't think we need to do that if it's going to be empty, right? Then in our test map, let's say that there is an empty room. So it is weird maybe that these are each their own instances. Well, no, I mean, I guess it's not. When it's empty, it's a bit weird. Truthfully, empty room, I guess we could have a single instance of. Room have location? The room does not currently have location. I don't know if it needs it eventually. Maybe it will, and in that case, then it certainly will need different instances. So let's keep those as instances for now. So basically, here we would be able to move like west by 1, and that's basically it, because we're going to make the move command so that it won't let you go out of bounds. Will only let you go somewhere where there's a room. Eventually, we will add logic also, so they can be conditional, right? You could have a a door with a key eventually, right? Like you can't go to this room until you get the key. We need a new command for move. Not really that similar to any existing command, but I will still just copy one move command, move. Okay, so then move. So we want to do a couple of things. First of all, we want to make sure that we can go wherever they said. So where we're at, we need to check if what they asked for is in bounds or not. And what they asked for is going to be in args, and it's going to be a string of north, south, east, west. It's going to be args 0, I believe. Not positive. Let's just print the arguments, actually. Make sure that it's going to be 0. This will do nothing but print. So yeah, let's do that. Let's say move east. Known command, move east. I need to register it or whatever, right? Because right now I created a move command, but there's nothing has made it available. We need to put it in default commands, I think, which is in... Okay, so it is 0. So I think that it's going to be easiest if we have the offset as numerical. So let's say if args 0 is north, offset equals 0 minus 1. We're going up by 1 because we'll be top left based, I think. Offset is that, and then we basically will make one of these for each thing. And then if it's none of those, we'll just say game.print invalid move argument, whatever you passed in. And then let's also return here because we don't need to do anything else. And then let's game.print the offset so we can make sure it's correct. East, move north. Okay. So now we can take the current location, kind of apply the offset to it, and make sure that it's in bounds. So let's say new location equals a list, or I think it's a tuple where the first one is going to be the new x. So we're going to take the offset 0. We are going to add it to the game.player.location 0. Then offset by that as well. So now we have essentially like the place where the player has now asked to move to. So we can say if 0 is less than or equal to we don't actually have a game width and height that just made that up. but we should, I mean, we have map actually. Let's make map have a width and a height. Yeah, let's make map have a width and a height, and then I think we'll also allow eventually like none in here as like a void spot that like might exist within the rectangle that represents the map, but you can't go there. It's not an empty room. You can't walk to it. It's like a void. Can't go there. But let's get the basics going first. So let's make properties for def property width turn self dot not that turn the length of self dot map data 0. Just we'll assume that it's a rectangle. 8 length of that. Yeah, okay. So then here this can be game.map.width and game.map.height. Convenient. So if it's in bounds, essentially, say game.print in bounds, else I had guessed that you can't move there. So move west is the only one that should work, I think. You can turn that off. Printing the args. That's weird. Wait. That's wrong, right? East is where we should be able to go east. Because we start at 0, 0, we want to be able to move to 1, 0. I think I put these backwards. These are backwards. Okay, so if it is a valid spot, then we're gonna move the player there. Game.player.location equals. Okay, so that's where I do think we actually want this to be a list, because the player wants its location to be a list so that it can be updated. Well, truthfully, the only reason I made that a list was so that we wouldn't be reassigning here. So I guess let's like so that we wouldn't be reassigning the whole list, essentially, which is what we would be doing for a tuple. So let's actually say location 0 plus equals the offset 0. Plus equals offset 1. So that those are all still set correctly. That'll move us to the same new location. This can be a tuple because we're not going to use it for anything but comparing. This will get us to the new spot. Yeah, so move command will always move by 1. You could obviously have teleporters or whatever. Like, you could make a way to move differently if you wanted, but... what's up, Gordy G? Sorry, I had the, I just realized that I had the YouTube chat covered up. My bad. Wumpus or MS Adventure. What about up and down? Oh yeah, we could do. Yeah, we should accept up and down probably, and left and right as well instead of those. In I never played MS Adventure actually. In MS Adventure, there's a cavelet, twisty little passage, all different, in which some directions brought you back to the same place. Yeah, I think we will. Like, you could totally have a room. You totally could have a custom room that when you get there, it manipulates anything ultimately, because when you move to a spot, you will get past the game object, and so like your command can kind of do whatever it wants. I guess we'll probably have like maybe eventually we'll have like an on arrive behavior thing for rooms so that they could define and it will get past the game object, and then we'll say whenever the player arrives at this room, check for the on arrive behavior function, call it and pass it the game object, and then that way there's a chance to like make any cool stuff you want happen. Including you could teleport them to a random place or teleport them to a specific place if they don't have the right item or anything like that. Twisty, I'll have to check into that. MS Adventure, is that short for Microsoft or is that a different thing? So I never actually did play. I never actually did play. Maybe the book is what you're talking about, actually, or this is maybe a different thing. I never actually did play. I never really did play that much text adventure games. I kind of like was aware of their existence, but was more sort of like Nintendo generation graphical video games. But I am kind of like interested in them now for sure. And I've made a few other attempts at making text-based games as well, so I've been interested in them for a while. This must be, I think. I'll have to check this one out. I've not actually played it, so it'd be cool to kind of see what other sort of stuff they have in there. I think the way that it did it was completely linked list, a destination room for each direction. Ooh, interesting. Okay. I did consider not using a grid, but instead essentially using like a node graph, I guess, which is kind of like what that would be. Just like each room is kind of linked to a room in one of 4 spots. But in the end, I decided, well, I don't know, decided is a bit strong. I could still change my mind. But what I've done so far, I went with the grid mostly so that it will be very easy to author the map. I have in mind using like spreadsheet software, hopefully, to author the map. Or something else that's very, hopefully, easy to use. I guess you could make a parser, right? You could parse from there and turn it into the linked list, but all right, let's see. Where was I at before I remembered the YouTube chat? So we have moving, we have, okay, so we should actually be moving the location. So we should be able to actually like go back and forth at this point, I think, right? Oh, you know, one thing we should also add is the look command. Right now we have look text on the room, but we don't have a way to actually see it right now. So let's go back to game and let's also, let's go back to command. Let's also add a look command. Steal this one again. Oh, east, west, north, south. That was the other, I think that's what I was maybe going to work on next. That's a good idea as well. Rather up, down, left, right, so that you could do those instead. Let's see, what do we want it to be? Sorry, all my thoughts all twisted around now. I'm stuck on up, down, left, right. What was that? A puppy with cars. Oh, look command, right? Look command. I think we'll start with just look, and then it will look around at your surroundings. execute is going to say game.print the game.map access the game.player.location. So look up the player's location, get that spot from the map, and then call, and then we have the property look text. I think. Do it for us. And then we need to add that to default commands. Look, all town serves its home base, okay, and then move east. Look. Oh. Oh. Okay, so I did I treated offset here, and I effectively treated location here in my head as XY. But when we fetch from the map, actually YX. But conveniently, we can just swap it here because I think I want to continue thinking about it in XY. The linked list or node map would eliminate the need for special cases. Special cases like the void thing, basically, where we have spots in our map that won't, that you can't go to, essentially. But as you said, a way to simplifying be nice to have, yeah. Then it should work, I think. Maybe move east. Look. There we go. Nothing remarkable. So that's the empty room. Then we can move back west. Be back at the town. And then just to make sure, we also should be able to go east one. And then if we go east again, it should not work. Yeah, nice. Okay. Portals, void, loops, etc. I gotcha. Yeah, I was... One thing that made me hesitant on the 2D map for the game that I... Like, not the framework, but the actual game that I want to make. My idea is, like, you kind of... Town is your home base, and there's a portal near town where the bad guys come out of and attack the town. So the town started hiring adventurers, i.e. you, to go into the portal and fight the bad guys before they come out and attack the town. And I haven't planned fully how I'm going to do that yet, but it did occur to me with the 2D map, I'm going to probably have like town in one place and then kind of a gap of voids and then just like a different section of the map that's like you can't move directly between them, but you'll be able to jump between them, and it is a bit awkward to have like a bunch of extra empty space in between. Maybe eventually I'll collapse it down to a node list. Well, multiple node lists in that case, because they would be disconnected. Well, no, they wouldn't. They're disconnected in 2D space, but they would be connected in the node list, right? Because there would be a, you know, whatever. There would be a command. There would be a way to get from one to the other. Although, I guess it's worth considering, do I want the linked list to represent... I mean, the linked list essentially would represent only the places where you can move normally, or it really just kind of removes the concept of move normally, doesn't it? You kind of just move, whether it's normally or not, you can jump to the link. Although I do want to have different ways. We'll keep pondering. Okay, so far though, moving is working pretty good. Town room, empty room. So let's work on a way to pick up an item next, I think. There'd be one direction in one room that takes you through the portal. Oh, right, you're not limited, right? You're not necessarily limited. Well, you could still do it. Yeah, okay. What you're saying. I think item. Item. Sure. Oh, it doesn't like to do that, right? Say none. Okay. I'm just gonna call it a test item for now. Test item extends item. We just do none of these. What's up, TWIG on Twitch? If your headphones aren't broken, I'll see. It's Twig. Oh, okay. What's up, Twig? Glad that your headphones aren't broken. Seems like the last couple of weeks I always have people in my Twitch chat that are like, my headphones are broken, please ping me, and then they want to like sell me artwork or something. This one, let's just take no arguments and let's just create stuff. So super init, test item, test description, that's fine. And then for stats, let's just say, never mind, just fixing bugs in my game. Nice. Are you working on a text game as well, or some other kind of thing? Or like, what platform is it for? Do you feel like sharing? Always into hearing about what other folks are working on. Wumpus is the only game I could think of where any non-move actions affected by adjacent rooms. So I don't think I played that one either. I don't know that I've heard of I mean, I've heard the name Wumpus, but I don't know that I don't think I knew it was a game or a text game or anything. So let's just, for now, let's have the test description, not description, but the stats. Let's just add some, might as well just add some hit points and mana. That's the only thing we currently have anyway. So I think what I'm going to do is make these match. So player has, oh, but they are underscores. Should we? Fine. We should have setters, probably. Probably have setters. It's a Love 2D roguelike blackjack game. Nice. Love 2D blackjack roguelike. Sweet. Yeah, that's cool. I like the idea of using, I do like the idea of reusing cards to make new experiences with them. Like, a lot of people are familiar with a deck of cards. It's cool to see, it's cool to see those kind of remixed and twisted around and used in other ways for new kinds of games. XYZZY is from Adventure. MS Adventure. So we could set those now. So then our item here will say max HP. Let's just give it 10 for now. Max mana. Let's do Two different values though, just to make it. Love 2D is the engine. Oh, really? I never heard of that. Let me see. Uses Lua. Oh, nice. Like quasi. I've used Lua a few times. I need to get back to it and publish my Factorio plugin, or I think they call it mod, right? I was working on this a few weeks ago. That's the most recent Lua I've done. Nice. Love 2D. That's cool. So let's make a room with an item. But I am actually just going to cheat kind of the same way I did. This is the wrong code. This is a test for something else. The same way I was doing this here, where I just kind of randomly changed the HP and mana. I'm actually going to do kind of the same thing. I'm going to say game.map. I want 1, 0, because now that's XY swapped around for us. And that's going to give us back the room. And on the room, I would like to get the items list, and I would like to append to it a new test item. I don't know if I said it, but I just kind of chose the name narrative out of the blue. I don't know if I'll stick with that or not, but that's what I ended up on, and I had to call it something, and I wanted to move on. Now we want test item. Okay, so one thing we need still is to be able to know that the items are there. So I think as part of the look command, we should actually also print the items. So look text. Why is that broken? Oh, here we go. So I just put that on the, yeah, I must have just put that on the wrong side. So we get the look text, and then I guess new line sounds fine, and then maybe, for now, I'm just gonna be like, need to actually get the items as well, basically. For room. Line per room items. We might as well also on item, if we're gonna need that actually, yeah, for the toString, I think let's just do should it be the whole thing? Yeah, let's just do the whole thing for now. So let's just say name, description, and then new line stats. That should get printed now when we look, and the empty room should now actually have a test item in it. Move east, look. Nice, okay, so there's nothing, so description still gets shown, which is now incorrect, but that's fine. And then this is funky because it's a list, but we put a new line in it. Yeah, let's format it a bit better actually while we're here. So back in the command, in the look command, let's actually just do this first, and then make a new one for this. Actually, let's go for item in, for room items, game.print item dot name. Actually say if per room items greater than 0, game.print items and then let's indent these in a little bit. So a couple of spaces and then item name, item description, and then yeah. We don't really need the toString, but that's fine. Item name, item description, and then we'll do game.print item stats. We'll put the spaces though too. So that should be a little bit cleaner. Oops. Sorted between list and int. Length. Okay, shortcuts are what comes next because I don't want to keep typing the full commands while I'm building the game and testing it. Oh, I never did actually do up, down, left, right either. So far the whole game is 233 lines. Dang, that's nice. Yeah, Lua is similar to Python, it feels like to me, in the if you're in an environment that's been set up and bound well into Lua, you have a lot of ability with each sort of command or whatever, each function call can get a lot done. Compared to some other more verbose languages. All right, look. Okay. Oh, these. Did I not just put 2 spaces? I put. I'm pretty sure. Did I Control Z maybe? This like this? Weird. Should take out that inbounds. Okay. Here we go. Eventually we'll print this out prettier as well instead of just dump the dictionary, but for now we're just going to keep it as dump the dictionary. Notepad++ is all the formatting place. Nice. Okay, so I do totally want shortcuts. So instead of move east, I want like ME. And we'll eventually do up, down, left, right as well. I do gotta run to the restroom though, so I will be right back. Okay. So for shortcuts, I think we need, when we pass into execute, we actually need another thing. So we either need to go back and make this sort of more like Python, where the first arg is actually the command, like argv0 is like the name of the Python file or whatever, right? Or we need to add another argument that is the actual command. Because basically, so I was thinking, so move, so like a shortcut to move would be MW. Somewhere we're going to need to kind of like interpret that and know that it means move west. But we're also going to have ME, MS, MN. So I think what I would like to do is just change it to where args is actually going to be, the 0th item will be the command itself, so that inside of execute you can have logic like if the command was MW, behave this way, if it was ME, behave this way. We could go through and make like move east shortcut command, right, which has ME. We could do that, but that's a lot of boilerplate. I think if we do it this way, we kind of will have an if statement somewhere which breaks out the behavior, but we'll be able to do kind of just like a single command. We don't have to like loot a bunch of stuff with a bunch of things. We could, and then we could also always add in here the shortcuts. It'll say like shortcuts for this command are MW, whatever. Okay, so back to command back to process input. Because this calls execute, and this is saying parts slice at 1. We're just going to be doing parts instead. Pass everything in. For the ones that care, which is right now just move. So it's good that we did this early because we have only one command. No, actually help command also. Help command also. So, okay, so this has to be 1 now. And this has to be 1 as well, and this too. What IDE is that? It is PyCharm. This IDE is PyCharm. I think that should handle our args for help, and then the other one was move. So in move, we were doing arg0 here. These are just all going to be args1. And then what we'll do is actually right at the beginning here, what is a game framework? A game framework is a software library that helps, that allows you to build a game with it, to build a game out of it, to build a game on top of it. So, for instance, this Love 2D, this is a game framework that was brought up earlier in the stream here in the chat. This is a game framework that lets you use Lua, programming language Lua, to write video games, to make your own games. Other examples of popular game frameworks would be like Godot. It's a game framework and engine. Pygame. Another game framework for Python. And I'll give you one more. Phaser is a game framework for JavaScript. Most of those other ones, like Love 2D, Phaser, Pygame, those are all for more visual-oriented games. Like, they can do lots of different kinds of visual-oriented games, you know, side-scrollers and top-downs and, you know, spaceship, asteroid type thing or whatever, right? They could do all kinds of different visual games. The one that I'm creating then, though, is more like the text old school text interface where you have like move east, move west, look, take item. I'm coding a game. I am doing ultimately both. I'm trying to create the framework, and then I also am going to be building a game with it. So right now I've kind of just sort of started creating the framework, and I'm using it as I go to kind of build the game that I want to make also. Good questions, by the way. Okay, so let's do right inside of execute, let's say if arg 0 equals, actually let's say if the length of arg 0 is equal to 2, then we know that we have one of the shortcut ones. If the length is equal to 2, then let's do two things, actually. Let's actually we could get by with one things maybe. The first game I made with Love2D was a Zork clone. Nice. Yeah, I know some folks are interested in making Zork on CircuitPython, which is the thing I typically stream about. We have a question there on YouTube as well. In fact, are you a full-time YouTuber or you work at a company? I am not a full-time YouTuber. I stream on my own channel here once a week, and I sometimes stream on the Adafruit channel once a week as well, and that's basically it. Occasionally I pop on in between, but for the most part it's like Saturdays at 10 a.m. Central Time. So about an hour ago I started streaming today on my channel here, and then sometimes I stream on the Adafruit channel. If you're not familiar with Adafruit, this is their website. Sometimes I stream on their channel Friday afternoons at 4 p.m. Central Time for the deep dive. So it sounds like we have some folks that are relatively new. So let me give you the really, really quick intro to what I usually work on, just because you caught me on a day where I'm working on this sort of more buried specific thing. So CircuitPython is kind of the main project that I usually work on when I do stream. It is a way to run Python code on microcontrollers, and so this game framework that I'm working on here, this will ultimately run on a microcontroller. In particular, what I'm looking at targeting is the Fruit Jam device, an upcoming sort of microcontroller that's sort of a video game system / early personal computer, like Commodore type device. You can build that type of thing out of it. So my game is kind of targeting that platform. So CircuitPython is what I work on usually on the stream. CircuitPython is made by Adafruit. Adafruit is essentially who I work for. They pay me to work on CircuitPython and other open source software and like learn guides and projects and all sorts of stuff related to that. They do pay me to stream when I stream on their channel as well, but it's just like the once weekly thing, not a full-time streaming thing. Software development is essentially my full-time deal. Software development and like project guides and documentation and stuff. How long have I been coding? A long time. Yeah, a long time. I picked up I probably first touched coding in middle school, which is age like probably 12 or 13 or 14 or something like that. I'm not 100% positive, but it was probably somewhere around there, and so that's like over 20 years ago. Because all of us, I am getting older all the time. And so that's like the first time I touched code. I would say like I touched it a little bit. I got fascinated by it. I made a couple of things in QBasic. You know, I kind of filed it away in my brain as a thing that I thought was cool, but I did put it down for a while, and then more so later into high school, probably like 2, 3, 4 years later. After that, I got more into it and I started learning Java, and I learned a lot more about it. I just practiced it a lot more. I did it a lot more around that time, high school, when I learned Java. And then if you like fill in kind of the rest of the history on me personally, at least, basically I got into programming as a job around maybe like a year or so, couple of years actually, after Android the Android mobile phone thing came out. So I learned Java. Android's built on Java. You can write Android apps in Java. So I learned Android when it came out, and then I got my first job programming Android stuff. Was my first language to learn. So that very first language back in middle school was QBasic, but I would not say that I learned it per se. I played around with it. I wrote some code in it, but I did not like comprehensively learn it or build anything big. Java was the first one that I would say that I like learned properly. Had a teacher, I had books and assignments, and I wrote a lot more code in Java, and I wrote bigger things in Java. Still not huge because it was still like basic classes, right? So, but yeah, Java I would say is the first one that I consider that I learned really. Okay, so if the command was only 2 digits, then we know it was one of the shortcuts like ME, MW, whatever. I own 20 Raspberry Pi Picos, Twig says. Dang, that is a lot. You got me beat. I own a lot, but probably not 20. If I took all the different kinds, Pico, the original one, Pico W, Pico 2, Pico 2W, if I took all of those, I probably am still less than 20. Maybe like a dozen or 15. Like I'm probably approaching 20 at this point, but not quite there. Let me catch up also here. So that was Zort clone. Yeah, I did it only using .batch files for the Zort clone. That's crazy. I think that's what you mean. Also using that. Bought mine with Duco. Bought mine to Duco with Duco. Okay. Yeah, thanks for the questions. I'm always happy to answer questions, by the way. I don't always say it, but yeah, you know, in case if anyone is ever watching, I'm always happy to answer questions about me, about what I'm working on, about CircuitPython. If I don't know about it, I'll tell you that I don't know about it, but I'm always happy to answer questions. I'm an engineer myself. Nice. What kind of stuff do you work on? But tough job market, yeah. I do feel that. I transitioned recently, within the last year, basically, I transitioned to working full-time on this stuff for Adafruit, on the CircuitPython stuff. I worked for about a decade, about 10 years, actually a little over 10 years. I worked on digital signage, so like Android media player devices that go inside of businesses and offices and stuff like that display menus or whatever they display. Pico coin can only be mined on lower. Oh, okay. I gotcha. That's interesting. Can mine with a Pico, huh? So it must be a very, a much more limited mining algorithm or whatever. That's kind of cool. I got interested in cryptos for a bit, and then like cryptos got a little bit weird, and like there's lots of scams and all kinds of other weird stuffs. But I also am sort of like fascinated by scams, so that would still interest me a bit. But I don't keep up with the cryptos nearly as much these days. But that is kind of cool though. A smaller one like that can go on tiny hardware is interesting. Arduinos, Picos, and ESP32s. Rust developer systems engineer. Ziab over on that one. YouTube, yeah. YouTube. Nice. I have not dabbled in Rust too much yet. I've watched a couple of streams with folks working on it, but I've actually gotten too far myself. Okay, so if we have a shortcut one, I think what I want to do is actually just change args1. Well, we want to base it on what we have. So let's say if args01, so if the second character of our 2 characters is west, or let's say right, because we can do this while we're here, in fact. So let's say if it's in west or R. Are there duplicates? Are we going to run into duplicates with that? So then we can just overwrite arg1 to be west, and then the rest of the code will just work. I mean, I say confidently without testing, obviously, but I think it'll work. So if it is east or... I just did those backwards again, didn't I? I totally just did those backwards again. So it should be west or left, L. L. Yeah, east or right. There we go. args1 equals east. Yeah, okay. Elif south or down. Just kind of made up T. I guess it was as good a guess as anything, but A. That is not as good a guess as anything. That's a terrible guess. West, east, south, north, and that will be up. So luckily we don't have any overlaps, which is nice. That's a north. Okay, so basically we take the 2-letter one, we kind of translate the second letter into what our logic already accepts. arg0 will stay MW instead of move, but I don't think we care. See if that works. Search Google for Arduino coin. Yeah, I'll check it out. I don't want to do it right now on the stream because I'm on a roll here, but I will check it out. Arduino coin. All right. So move. So let's just say move west. We should be not allowed. Okay, so we failed miserably. Index error. Right. Yeah. So args is args only has one thing currently. So this I guess needs to be append. We either need to append. We could say args.append empty. Yeah, either that or we could put append here, I guess, instead of 1, but west. Okay, can't move there. Move east. We can. Ooh, but we got unknown command. But it did not work. Oh, right, because I didn't add this. Okay, so MW works. ME. M. Let's do cardinal directions first. So west, east, north, south, up, down, left, right. Can't go there. ME, we can. Inbounds, nice. Let's take that out while I'm thinking about it. Inbounds. So we moved east, so now we should be able to go back. MW, ME, okay, perfect. M left. Okay, M right. Okay, MT, no. Can't go there. Nope, didn't work. Oh, no, not T. There is no T. I was thinking M top, but that's not a thing. M up. M down. There we go. I think those are all working. Hey, thanks for the follow, Twig, on Twitch. Appreciate it. I don't have the thing pulled up where I can see it all the time, but I just got it while I was cycling through Windows here. Oop. All right, so we have shortcuts. What do we want to do next? We should also handle the full versions of left, right, top, bottom. That's not handled yet either. So let's say if so. Let's say if args1 is up, then override it to north. Those are backwards. Those are backwards again. What is up with that? Weird. Right? Yeah, those are backwards. Weird. Okay, anyway. So that should make it so move left, move right work. Let's double check. Right. Oh yeah, I took out the, I took out the inbounds thing. Now we have, nothing gets printed, basically. But we can look. Look if we go to the right line. Here, okay. We're in there, so we could try move right again, but we can't go. Left. Will let us go. Look, we should be back at the town. Cool, okay. Okay, so let's work on picking up the item. So we want to be able to go move right, and then we want to be able to go... pick up item or something. One question that we basically got to answer here is, do we want to take all the items at once, or do we want the user to be able to say, like, take a specific item and leave another item? I think I lean towards take all the items at once. The only reason you would ever really want to take specific items and leave some is if the inventory is limited. And I don't know for sure if I'm gonna limit the inventory. And we could always go back and add that later, right? Like if I make a pickup command or a take command, I could make it, I could have it start as just take or take all. And then we could go back later and be like, take a specific one. Like the idea I was thinking is we could add a number here, right? Like it could be like 1 test item description and then whatever. And then you could say like take 1 to indicate that's the one you want. But I'm going to start with take all. We don't have an inventory. So let's make inventory a list of items. Let's make a property def current stats. Which will return a dictionary, HP, mana. Okay, but so we, okay, I do think we're gonna have an inventory and we're gonna have an equipped. Eventually maybe we'll worry about equipped slots, or should we do that now? No, let's not do that now. Let's just say we have equipped. And so like when you pick it up, it will go to your inventory and then you can equip it if you want it to take effect, right? Like this has extra hit points and mana, but they will only be, they'll only apply if you equip it. So we need, when we get stats, we need to go through all the equipped items and add stuff up. So where do we want to do that, though? Do we want to do that in here? And if so, really, we need properties for these also? But we also have the discrepancy between max HP and current HP, right? So that's going to raise our max HP. I guess we could rest afterwards, and that will put it up to full. Yeah. Or we could make the equip command also change your current HP when you equip it. That's probably what we'll do. Boy, okay, so I think we... want another function like def get get stat modifiers, get equipped stat modifiers, or equipment. And this is going to return a dictionary of things that get added to the player's base stats to build up the full current stats. So for item in self.equipped, so that modifiers is a dictionary. That modifiers for item in equipped, we need to then also loop over the stats. For stat in item.stats keys, stat modifiers stat equals item stats stat plus equal well, shoot, okay, so we need it to be, if it exists we want to add, if it doesn't exist then we want to set it. So if stat is already in there, then we actually want a plus equals. That way if you add two items that both give you HP, they add together. Else if it's not in there, then we put it in there. Current one. Okay, that should loop over all the items and all their stats, add them up into a dictionary of modifiers. Yeah. The current HP versus max HP thing, I'm gonna have to get untangled at some point, I think. The direction I'm headed, I'm not sure is actually gonna work, but I'm not sure, so I'm gonna keep heading in the direction so that we can at least find out if it's gonna work or not, with a little more surety. Alright, so current stats, it's gonna get us HP mana. We will, I think, show these as well. Add, so we're gonna, we'll say modifiers equals self dot get equipment modifiers, and then we'll say, so I think maybe we say that items never modify the current HP and the current mana. They always modify the max. So these ones are not like stats as much as they are game state. Those will go up and down during combat or resting. But items will not affect them directly. Instead, items will affect max, which will affect these indirectly, because if your max HP goes up, then you can heal to be at more than you had. Okay. So those I think we leave base, and then here we go. Trying to decide a little bit how generic we want to make this. So it's a little annoying because modifiers, like if you had no items that modify max HP, then it will not be in the modifiers dictionary. So like the easiest way this code works is you just go, you know, max HP plus modifiers max HP. But the problem with that is this might not be there. So you actually have to go plus that if max HP in modifiers, else 0. Yeah. It's a lot of stuff after the plus sign there. Okay. I think it should work though. Okay. What we should do though for string, when we call toString on player, which I think player info calls toString, I'm pretty sure. The info command. Let's print the current stats. This could be a property. It's not going to be formatted very well, but that's fine. Okay. We don't have a take command currently, and I want to be able to test if this part worked or not, so I am actually going to go and cheat again, and we can just say game.player.equipped.append the test item. So we can skip the whole taking, we can skip the equipping, we can just put this item in equipped, call it good. And then we should be seeing here that our max HP and mana are actually bigger than they were before. They started as 10 and 20 by default. We should have an additional 10 and 15 on top of that if this all worked. But it crashed instead. Argument of none type is not iterable. We did not return modifiers. Crashed for a different reason. Returned a non-string object, which was dict. That's weird. Because you can print a dictionary, right? Like, here. But it's calling string of dictionary, which returns a string properly. Okay. Why doesn't it just call string on? Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't matter, I guess. We can just pass that. We can just pass that through though, right? Whoops. What's that? You open? I'm a little surprised it didn't just do that by default, but there we go. Okay, so current hit points is 5, current mana is 12, which is what I cheated us down to right here. But max is now 20 and 35. And we can rest to get healed back up. We can player to look at our stuff. Ooh. We got to fix that. So when you rest, it should take into account your items. So instead of game.player.max HP, it's going to have to be current stats max HP. And that's a dictionary. There we go. Okay, so now we can rest and get filled back up with the bonus from our item. Okay. So next, let's be able to pick up the item. So let's make a class. Should we do take or pick up? Kind of like take because it's shorter, I think. Take command, extends command, access name take, help text, take items from room. Desk pile overflowed slightly. Take items from room. Execute. So if there's no items, let's print a message. So if game.map game.player.location.items, if that's 0, game.print there are no items to take. Let's just return. So we know there's more than 0, so for now let's just take them all. So let's say for we don't need a loop. We can actually just say so player.inventory.extend, because that's a list. Yeah, game.map.player.location. Yeah, player location. So get the room from the map and then take the items out of the room. We do need to remove those items still as well, though, right? Because we don't want infinite item glitch. This is game.player. And then we also, afterwards, let's go and take those items to clear them out. So we can say clear, maybe. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to bother with save. I think what we'll do is when you rest, it will save. Right now, saving doesn't do anything anyway, though. So that should give us an ability to pick up the test item. So let's go back here. Let's get rid of the cheated one that's equipped. We'll keep the cheated one that's in the room. We will add take to the default commands. You know, another thing we could have done is have the take command, instead of having it check if there's an item, we could have it only be in the available commands if there is an item. I think this is gonna be simpler though. It's always available, but you you call it in a place where there's no items, it tells you. It's going to be simpler. Okay, so if we say take here, there's no items. If we say, oh, that's weird. Why are those 0? Why are those 0? Oh. I have no idea how the order of operations works with plus and ternary, but I bet you that this is doing else 0 for this whole thing. We actually want, I guess, this. It's kind of how I assumed it would be at first, but it must not be. Yeah, interesting. That's good to know. Ternary operators. What would that even? So it. Interesting. Yeah, basically the plus came first. Hmm. All right, let's go back and take. So we have no items here, not take, rather not rake take. So yeah, perfect, no items. So we can move right, look, and see our item. Take our item, and look again. Now there's no more items. We took it, it's in our inventory. One thing is we don't print the inventory currently. Stats, new line. I don't, maybe we shouldn't be using toString for this. I think I want a def print info that gets past the game. I don't remember if I ended up needing future. We need this stuff though because we have a circular import problem where game imports player, but I also want player to import game for type annotations. And I think that stuff up there fixed it, hopefully. I don't know if we need the future thing. The future thing was a different attempt to fix it, if I recall correctly, that did not work, but we'll see. Print info. So let's go. Let's say game.print. We will print the stats first. So let's say string of stats, current stats. And then let's do a list kind of like we did for look, honestly. So if game.play, actually we are just self here. If self.inventory, we have items in our inventory. And I do actually want to have numbers for these. Inventory. Maybe we don't need the game, actually. We don't need this. Oh, we do, because we need game.print. Yeah. Okay. So then we loop over the items that are in inventory. We print the item name, description, and stats. And I would like to say, actually, next to the name, let's add a little square brackets with index +1. So our items will have numbers associated with them. Okay, we did need that future thing. Maybe we needed only the future thing? Or do we need both? Both. I thought one of these ended up fixing it, but maybe it was... Okay. Had them backwards. Okay. Oh, but then that's... Let's do both. Looks like runtime is happy with the first one, but IDE is happy with the second one. But my IDE is still sad because it doesn't know that this is in this folder for some reason. Check with it right now. Okay. Right now we have no items, therefore it didn't print anything. We can move right, we can take, we can player. Still didn't print anything. And look, and the item is gone. We need to change the player command to actually call print info instead of whatever it's doing now. It is calling print on game.player, which was also getting passed a string again. So instead of this, we will say game.player.print info. Move, take, player. He did not pass in the game. Move, take, player. Nice. Okay, so we have inventory. Item 1 is test item. I will... space here. And then I want an equip command, which will move it from inventory to equipped. And then I think we'll probably wrap it up after that for today. So let's do a copy of take. Equip. Equip item. An item from your inventory. I'm back, was trying to resolve an issue. Nice, hopefully it worked out for you. Inventory, an item from your inventory. Usage, equip, item number. Player and to see. That's a long line that it's going to complain about, but that's fine. I reported someone on a Discord server for sending scam links, and I got banned from the server. Probably not a great server to hang out then. Hang out in then. Out in then. That's not good. They're probably in cahoots with whoever runs the server, unfortunately. All right. Equipment items. So basically, we want this to where. So we need to get the number. So equip item. Let's call this request item number, and that is args1. We could say if length of args less than 2. You just specify, yep, perfect, okay. Turn. Get that, so we have a request item number, and then what we do is we game.player.equipped.append game.inventory.pop request item number, but it is -1. It's 1 based instead of 0 based. Pop it out of the inventory, put it in the equipped. We'll worry about unequipped later, but for now, just equip. We should be able to go take the item, equip the item, and then get the stats from it. It feels a little weird that these are instances. I don't know if it matters that much in the grand scheme of thing, but it feels weird because we don't, like, we never really would have a second instance of the move command, so arguably we don't need to have a class that we make instances of, but that's fine. Keep it for now. Maybe it's worth keeping that way for people who want to make, like, more wildly different games. Maybe somebody does come up with a reason for, like, different instances of the same command. I can't come up with one off the top of my head, but somebody could do something crazy with it. All right, so that should give us equip. So we should be able to go move, take player to see it in our inventory, and then equip. We don't give it a number, it will say that. Equip 1. Crash. How do you spell equipped? That's on player. I spelled it wrong. Means also somewhere else, right? Current stats. Get equipment modifiers, which current stats uses. Good. Move, take, check, equip, 1. Game has no inventory. Game.inventory should be player. Game.player.equipped.append game.player.inventory. Move. Take. I don't know why I'm continuing to print it, but that's fine. Player, and then equip, and I'm going to remember the number. 1 still crashed. Item number. Oh, that's a string, so we need int. Could worry about value error later as well. Take happy path for now. Move, take, equip. Nice, did not crash. So player, sweet. That shows our bonus. And rest. Oh, because I'm in the empty square, and actually rest only works in the town. So move left, then rest. and then player, and we should be full now. Nice. All right, so we can move. We can take an item. We can equip it. It gives us stats. We can actually use the stats. I think that is a good stopping point for now. So, thank you to everyone for watching. Thanks to the new folks. Twig on Twitch, thanks again for the follow there. And Yab on YouTube. Appreciate you, as well as Johnny over on Discord. I will be back on Friday for the deep dive. Friday afternoon over on the Adafruit channel. I will be back next week at the normal time here on my channel, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Central, working on some more CircuitPython stuff. I hope you all have a good rest of your day and a good rest of your weekend, and I will catch you later. See ya.